Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP episode 550. We're live tonight. It is Monday, October 16th. I'm Lucas. I'm joined tonight by Catherine.
Hello.
And Serge.
Hello.
And Christian.
What up? What did you get?
And Anna.
Hello.
I just want to say it's been so long since Serge has been on the show that Christian had to go and capture him from his house, bring him to another location just to get him on the show.
Secret location.
I dragged him, I don't know how many hours. 16 hours.
We were in a car together. If you count 2 days span, it's like 16 hours. We were together in a car. It was not great.
I mean, in a way, it was great.
In a way, it was great.
In
The ride itself,
it was not.
It was not.
Yeah, Anna and I have done that with another friend from Kansas City, and let me tell you, by the end of those 16 hours, boy.
Who's even from Kansas City?
I have fun with it. I enjoy it. I'm always like, oh, these guys were fun to travel with. And they're like, don't talk to me again. Don't with you, Anna.
Here's the problem is one of us says, oh, we should stop at White Castle. And then we all are like, oh yeah, great idea. But it's a great idea before you go to White Castle. After you go to White Castle, it's not
a great idea.
No.
Especially when you're sitting in a car for so long.
Ooh, I've never even been to White Castle.
Crack open all the windows.
Ooh, everything I've heard seems like I shouldn't go.
Yeah, that's why when we went last year, we went to Long John Silver's instead, because that was a lot better for our stomachs.
So where did you even find Long John Silver's? Our ride through the American South, we had two choices, Bojangles or McDonald's. That was the choice.
Yesterday.
How's that even a choice?
The choice was Bojangles. I got him that for breakfast yesterday. It was fun.
We did Bojangles for breakfast.
Right.
I did Bojangles for breakfast.
You gotta mix it up.
I don't know what a Bojangles is, so I would definitely go to that.
Great.
I think they're only available in the South, though, Anna. So I don't know if you ever plan.
I don't go there.
Well, actually,
I do not.
Bojangles is opening a restaurant in Chicago. They said within
Oh,
the next 2
well
years.
then.
So TFcon, when you
Chicago.
come to TFcon Chicago, there's going to be a Bojangles soon.
It'll just be out of place.
Probably.
Were they-
I mean, it'll.
Okay.
Were they sitting there going, what is a location that doesn't have enough good food choices? I know, Chicago.
Well, yeah, I'm just glad we're getting another chain. We don't get a lot of love when it comes to the big chains.
That's true.
Yeah,
We don't.
That's
yeah. You got all these crappy local places like Portillo's and
Portillo's is here.
There's a Portillo's here. It's literally down the street from where we are. So if you're coming to TFcon,
nice.
you miss some Portillo's. Use your chance. You get 3 years in a row of TFcon Portillo's. Ooh, 3 years in a row.
Maybe this is the true reason why they picked Florida is because they were just looking at where there were Portillo's at.
There's
They're
literally
oh hey.
And the Giordano's on the same street. Not that I like Giordano's, but it's just like I'm home.
Yeah.
It's crazy. This is the Wild West out here. Wild East. It's just crazy.
I feel like that as a Chicagoan, you have to just put that caveat on there. It's no. I'm not saying that I think Giordano's is the shit.
Put it out there.
It exists.
It's here.
It is here.
We won't be there.
No, we're
but
not
it's here. It's literally down the street from our resort.
So there you go. So we had to do a Monday show because some of us are going to be on vacation. Some of us are already on vacation. Or I don't know. Mm-hmm. Are you still working, but you're working from
yes.
Florida satellite location? Yeah.
Your satellite office.
Or remotely. They didn't say where remotely had to be.
There you go.
I told them I was going to be in Florida. They were like, okay. Like, it's fine.
Same.
They can tell if I'm doing my work or not. I just didn't want to do the whole week. I have, like, spare PTO. I just didn't want to do the
must be nice, Mr. Salary Man.
Well, see, at my company, it runs into issues, like, because technically you're supposed to claim where you're working from, like, right? Like, and so I actually tell my people, like, don't tell me if you're working from another state, like, just pretend you're working from the local one.
Yeah, with my company, it only raises an issue if it's out of the country. Once it's out of the country, that's when it's like sketchy. So if I do TFcon Toronto, I can't. I'll have to take the entire time off.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so we're actually not talking about TFcon this week.
We're not, because we already did.
Yeah, we somehow managed to talk about it. But
and
there
anyway, haven't been any new reveals since our last show.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
Just the slipstream and
the slipstream is officially revealed now.
Yeah,
but I think with just one photo, like they only revealed it with one photo because they don't want you to see what it looks like because it's not that good.
Well, they revealed the custom class yet?
No. Usually the custom class is literally like the day before, right?
Yeah.
Typically.
Maybe we'll see it tomorrow.
Yeah, and we haven't gotten an announcement from MMC either, which I'm kind of a little surprised on that.
I mean, the cassette is probably a given, right?
Probably.
It might be a situation of have they gotten the stock stateside in time for them to say something?
That's right.
Right.
Well, if it is, Christian, you have a job for me.
I understand.
I need an elephant. An elephant with a horn.
Next, I mean, the logistics seem tough. If it would have to come through like the California port, literally bringing it across the entire country seems like it's a race against time.
I will say that I have been highly entertained by following Canadians that are associated with TFcon or going to TFcon on social media, like on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, sharing some of their thoughts as they've been doing a road trip through the United States, especially in the South, because there are, some culture shocks, I would say, probably, of going to the South from Canada. So it sounds like that they are, enjoying some of that. Some of the
there was a stretch where Christian and I drove through some like super like small towns. Like we're talking probably a couple hundred people. Like these towns that are literally so small, there's not even like a McDonald's or anything. Like it's just a bunch of local joints and like one gas station.
Yeah, but you guys have that like in Illinois and North Carolina too,
right? Yeah. I mean, we do, but it's just like, I mean, even in Illinois, like the small towns, like you might see like a Walmart still, like, like not like town center, but like on the way at least. But somewhere where we were going, I mean, there were some parts where it was just like nothing.
Yeah, that's one thing that threw me off too. Like when I went on a road trip out west, is that there were some stretches where like literally they didn't actually have a gas station. There was some entrepreneurial like person that had like a big tank with gas that they like would actually like. So it was kind of like a makeshift gas station.
Is this legal? Probably not. Do you need gas?
But it was like one of those things where I was like, well, like if you're, because it was, I mean, there's like literally nothing else like for hours. So I guess that, they make the run to whatever, several hours away and get, fill the tanker up and, whatever. Yeah. Oh, here it goes. Zaldron said you hit the Dollar General belt. So.
Yeah, no, they had nothing but a Dollar General. Like
that happened. That's
literally like every town that we went through.
Yeah.
We have a lot of those in Missouri, and I still feel a culture shock when I go through them, even though I'm from Missouri.
Yeah, we tried not to stop. We definitely did not want to.
We were okay.
2 city slickers in the middle of the country.
Right. Yeah, it always feels weird when you get out in some of those kind of places. You just feel out of place when you go in there. So anyway, all right. So we're not talking about road tripping and all that.
Yeah,
the
no
actual
more road trips,
topic
no more
for
TFcon.
tonight. So we had Sergio on. It's been a while since you've been on, and so we figured the perfect topic, and this was Anna's suggestion, was to discuss renting toys, because we've all been there. We all and when we say renting, I don't think that we all, well, I guess, I don't know, we can discuss this later as far as at what point you're collecting, if you've embraced it or whatever. But I feel like we all have good intentions of, we're not expecting to rent a toy, but I feel like we end up doing that a fair amount, because we end up buying and selling and all that type of thing. So I don't know what you...
And I feel like a con weekend is a good time to bring this up, because a lot of con purchases, you get there, you get excited, you see it, and you buy something you would not have bought. And then, 6 months later, 2 months later, 3 days later.
It's a lot easier to get sucked in at a con, because usually for a con, you're saving up for months. You come to the con with a wad of cash. You see something shiny picks up your eye, you immediately pick it up without thinking, because like you said, you're excited, you're ready to spend some money, versus any other time of the year when you're dealing with your normal toy purchases and toy budgets. It's like, unless you come across a killer deal on Facebook or eBay, chances are you're probably not going to pick up something outside of your realm.
Yep. But if it's there, you're like, hey, that's cool, let's get it, and then the trouble begins.
Well, Christian and I had a very good discussion over dinner. You guys should have seen it. It was great.
He cooked dinner for me.
I cooked dinner for him.
I did the dishes.
Nice chicken and rice, some vegetables.
You're so
great
cute.
Discussion about rentals. Oh, perfect. I'm telling you, the Mojo Dojo Casa House is pretty great so far.
The level of domestic bliss here is just incredible.
Great. But yeah, we had a good discussion on, I guess really we have to first define what renting is, because you Lucas, you kind of mentioned it. Sometimes you don't really intend to, and I have seen some people post in the groups that they do intend to do stuff like that. But I think we have to define renting really, because if you buy something that's out of your usual collecting realm, I think it's okay to try something out. And if you just don't like it, then I don't really see that as renting. Because sometimes some toys, we brought up the example of MP Ironhide, where the photos were terrible. All the photos were horrible. All the press images that they released, everyone was trashing it. Then it came out, you get it in hand, and it was a fantastic toy.
Yep.
And I think the opposite can also happen, where the photos are awesome, then you get it in hand, and it's like, eh.
I have a prime example of renting. Last year at TFcon, I had Anna pick up a toy for me that I want before the convention, before it started. I 100% knew I am renting this toy. I want it short term. It looks fun. I would like to play with it for a little bit and then send it along to its next owner, Delta Magnus. And sure enough, a year later, I'm about ready to sell it. I've had my fun.
The big Fans Hobby one that they did as the convention exclusive.
A year. So
yeah, that's a long-term rental.
I've seen some folks do it a week on the Facebook groups. They'll be like, I just want to transform this.
Part of renting it is wanting to enjoy it and experiencing it as part of my own collection. And sometimes I might rent something and I end up I keep it as a forever toy. But most of the time they're just part of my collection for that instance and that brief period. And I'm happy to stay along.
I realized when I proposed this topic, I thought of two people. I thought of Catherine and I thought of Serge. And Catherine has really embraced the toy renting.
No
right?
basis for this accusation.
Baseless accusation.
What are you talking about, Serge?
He doesn't do that.
So Ron says
I think I'm in the
that
non-intentional
renting
Okay.
is not negative, is what he's saying. He said, that
have
Catherine's
to be
the one that
negative.
owns it. Don't take offense.
I think I'm more so
think
in
that's-
of unintentional.
That's what I was surprised by, because I figured Serge didn't care. I didn't expect him to be like, "Oh, renting is bad." I expected him to be like, "I embrace it."
Lighthearted crap mostly. But yeah, I think I'm more so in the camp of like unintentional, where it's like me and Christian have these conversations all the time about one-offs, where it's like, I mean, I collect mostly movie stuff, Unicron trilogy stuff, like stuff that I grew up with. And then sometimes every now and then something will be cool that's outside of my realm that I'll buy. But then I'm like, you know what? I think I should stay in my lane. Or, oh, this is cool, but I have literally nothing to put it with. And that's one of the things that I have a big issue with is like not having things go together.
Yep.
It just drives me crazy when I don't have like, even if it's a small group of like 3-4 toys, if I have just like one thing, for whatever reason, I just can't just have one thing of one kind.
Anna, you double convinced me recently not to rent that Dreadwind or Talon from Fanzombie.
Yeah.
I want them badly. They both look great. I've got nothing to put them with, and they're outside of my lane.
You have 0 MP scale stuff, too. Well, next to 0,
Next to 0.
It does look great.
It looks fantastic. Where would I put it? Who would go there? Nobody.
And I've seen this collection.
He saw
one thing about that, Catherine, I can't remember, you'd like to have an eclectic collection as well, right? Like you don't necessarily feel the need, because that's something, you know, I've discussed myself too, is like, I need things to go together. And so it bugs me, like I can't have the one-offs, whereas I know like Anna has this, you know, very wonderful, very well put together collection that when you like go and see her collection, like even though everything is completely different, it's somehow like the way that she arranges it, it all goes together. And I don't know how she does it.
That's a big skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, my collection is arranged to the limitation of Autobot, Decepticon, and Mercenary. Beyond that, it's mostly a free-for-all, except for that one spot of G1 Decepticons.
That's also a good way to display this kind of theme.
But I also think it's funny, too, that, you know, Serge, you talk about, like, buying non-movie stuff and regretting it. And I know like Peter and I both are kind of like the opposite, where it's like we buy the movie stuff and we do regret it. So like I eventually had to be like, all right, stop doing this to yourself. You know, because like
because as soon as people dump their movie stuff, I'm the first one they ask.
That's true.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So I guess we've got two types of renting then: intentional and unintentional.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've done the movie stuff too. Right, where I'm like, that looks so good. That's definitely going to be the one movie figure I'm going to keep in my collection. And then it's like months later, I'm like, that is less fun to transform than all my other toys. It frustrates me. I'm going to get rid of it. Right, I end up renting it by accident. I think what I'm mostly worried about right now is the new type of rental that I might end up with, and that's the collab figures. Like, it's very easy to get excited about the collaborative figures, but then when you look back at them a little while later, it's like they are really odd even in my collection. You know, why do I have an Ecto-1? I'm not a Ghostbusters fan. Like, I like Ghostbusters, but I'm not like a Ghostbusters collector. I saw the movie when I was like 33, right? I waited so late to see it. So I'm not really into it, but I have an Ecto-1. I have a DeLorean. And when I look at those things, it's like, okay, those are not in my wheelhouse. I'm afraid they're going to eventually leave, but I didn't want to skip them either because they were really fun, interesting collaborative figures. Like I liked the fact they existed.
It hurts my heart that you sit here and talk about like that you're like, oh yeah, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future. Like I don't really like those movies all that much. Like they're okay, you know. Like those are some of my favorite movies because I absolutely love those movies. Some of my favorite collaborative figures because I love those movies. Whereas like the Universal Dracula, I'm like, why the hell do I have this in my collection? Like I could care less. It's a cool figure. It's like whatever, but it's like I just don't. It's not the same thing. And like that
perfect Anna figure because it's like when in a million years, who on earth had ever said, "I want a Frankenstein Megatron." Like that's like
it's an actor.
Oh, it's an impact.
Yeah.
Well, but isn't it supposed to be? No, it's all right. Well,
Dracula's is never leaving my collection. I love Dracula's. I'm not really in on the Frankenstein just because I don't think it looks very good. Like, I love the concept of a Frankenstein toy. Just the look doesn't appeal to me as much. Now, Christian saw it and he was like, I want that bad. So
correct me if I'm wrong, but these all sound like examples of, oh, I regret buying that. That's not really the same as renting, though.
Yeah,
that's just normal Hasbro markets to us.
Rent.
Yeah.
Is it or is it not?
I
think it's kind of.
See, I feel like renting almost more as you know, kind of like what I've done over the years, where, and I don't know, like, do you even call that renting? Like, where I bought a bunch of Masterpiece twice, like a full Masterpiece collection, and then I sold it all. Like,
I think we're all guilty. I think I'm on like my third time of selling off all my Black Series and then buying more and then selling them off again. Sometimes you just need a couple tries. You know, it's kind of like trying new foods. You might not like it the first time. Maybe the person that you tried it from didn't make it right. Maybe go to a different restaurant. This restaurant makes it better.
You wait too long and it gets cold, and you try it a year later, and it's much better.
Right.
Yeah, it may take you 5 or 6 Megatrons to find the right Megatron for your collection. Right. That is good renting.
But see, I figured I don't need Masterpiece. I just need Mini Masterpiece, right?
Yeah. If you're me, you buy Masterpiece Optimus Primal 4 times. I think it's 4 times. I've bought and sold that figure 4 times because I feel like I should have it. Because Beast Wars is like my G1, and I love it so much. But that figure I don't like very much, and I'm not going to get the others because they're too expensive. Anyway, I've bought and sold Masterpiece Optimus Primal 4 times.
It's a bit excessive.
It's way too excessive.
I think 2 or 3 times, like, all right. 4, it's like, 4 is
come
like,
on.
Come on.
You have an issue.
Now, are you at least buying like different versions of the mold, or is it like the exact same figure?
I have one of them. And I've kept it after it came from Christian.
I think you have number 3.
You want to know? Oh, how about the most famous version of renting? The Duran's Ultra Magnus, or no, the yellow Prime. It's like 4 of us have owned it by now.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is does that, like, is there a specific term for that? Because I think that there's been multiple different figures.
We call that the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants syndrome.
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. There we go. Christian and I did that with Fans Hobby, the Fans Hobby Prime.
Laser Prime.
Yeah. It's like a divorce.
Laser Prime. Yeah. And then one of the friends of the show ended up getting it off of me. I think it. Right.
I think it was like you. Yeah, you sold it last year.
Yeah.
That's an even better example. That's a funnier one because then it's a multi-rental.
So,
well, and I could almost see it coming back too, like next year. Like I could see him
day between the two of us again.
I could see Pav like putting it on the table, and then me being like, well, you know, like it's a cool figure. I kind of like it. Yeah.
And I'll get it back from you, and then it'll come back. You'll be like, I don't want this anymore. I'm like, oh, maybe I would like it again.
I wonder if we have anything. I don't think so. We've bought and sold so many.
I don't think we ever bought and sold anything back to each other.
We might have considered it, but I don't think it's happened.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I personally think we've all...
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I personally think we've all been in this long enough that we know if something is at risk when we buy it, right? Like, I have a pretty good feeling of in my collection that I know is never going to come out. And, you know, I'm surrounded by things I have in front of the shelf. Like when I bought this, you know, Dr. Wu Pathfinder, I knew I wanted this so bad that it's never going to leave my collection.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to hang out with my Dr. Wu toys. Sometimes it's going to hang out with my original Pathfinder. It's going to go all over the room and I'm going to keep it forever. But there's other things that it's just like, I don't know if this is going to last or not. And I kind of count that a little bit as kind of sort of renting.
It's okay to do that.
I'm just saying, like, I'm really hesitating on magnets right now, right? Because everybody's talking about how fun it is. I know that thing's shoulders look stupid to me. Everything else about it looks good to me. But I think that because I live and die on shoulders and faces, and we all know Anna's hand-ups are shoulders and faces.
And it could look different
on figures. It could look better in person. Lucas showed me some action poses because he knows what I like, and he's like, "I'm gonna pull it over the edge."
Yeah.
And
I got the Studio Series Primal from the movie last week, and I remember seeing shots online. It looked like it had a giant backpack, but then I got it in person. I'm like, this is just not big at all.
Yeah, I don't think the Magnus is as bad for me. However, Anna, like I do think that for you with shoulders and all that, like we probably need to arrange a time for you to come over and check it out before you actually get it yourself.
Visitation.
I would hate
come to yours.
Like
I would hate to have you buy it and then have to rent it.
Friends TM.
Yeah, because it was on sale last week, and I was like, I could get that a little bit off. I do want that kind of, but I kind of think like it's not gonna last, right? Like the Siege Ultra Magnus is on my desk right now. I wouldn't have that if its value hadn't tanked so bad, right? Like I want to rent this thing away. I want it to go away from my life, but back then I would have never thought that was a rental. I thought that was a cool new Ultra Magnus. I was going to collect Ultra Magnuses and I was going to keep it forever. And plot twist, pretty much every Ultra Magnus I owned turned out to be a rental because I enjoyed them for about 30 seconds and then most of them looked kind of bad afterwards. So I ended up selling them.
And I've had the opposite of that with Christian, where sometimes there's certain figures where, depending on how they're released or like, the hype around it, sometimes you can tell which figures are gonna double, triple in price. Mm-hmm. Like the HasLab Unicron, like when that was out, I told Christian right away, like if I buy this thing, it's not gonna last. Like if I buy this thing, as soon as someone offers me this amount of money, it's gone. Like
that did happen.
I don't know if that falls under. I mean, like.
See, I'm nearing the end of my rental period for my HasLab Unicron, and it's not for the money. It's just I'm kind of getting bored of looking at it now.
That's something I just can't relate to. I don't have anything that can compare that to.
I need to my collection needs to be constantly changing. I need to have the newest and latest version of whatever the figure out there is that I want.
And see, that's where I think that's the perfect rental strategy. If it's almost like leasing a car or whatever. It's like if you want the newest, like hottest thing, then it makes perfect sense to rent. But I think that if you know that about yourself, I think it's probably better because you can devise a better strategy about selling versus if you're just, like doing it and then just filling yourself full of regret.
It's pretty great. There are no old toys I'm after at all.
That's really
gotta be new.
That's really how the hobby is now, especially if you're a G1 collector. I mean, it's just they keep reinventing the wheel, it seems, every couple of years. And every time it gets us. Like every time it's like, I'm sure when Classics first came out, everybody's got the deluxe Seeker and was like, this is it. This is the greatest thing they're ever going to make.
I did think that.
They're never making anything better. And then
I thought that Starscream is just amazing. It was like, there's never been a toy that looks this much like Starscream. This is so cool. I'm going to have this forever.
And it didn't happen with Earthrise Prime. Like right now, I have that mold in my Studio Series 86 display. And even I think like this is the best like G1 Prime and or retail G1 Prime ever. Like it's not gonna get any better than this. And I guarantee you in a couple of years you're gonna make something better somehow.
Oh right.
Yeah, I think that's a risk. And I think like the stress of having to deal with a rental you didn't plan on having is what's kept me from buying all those Beast Wars Versus sets. Like all of those, Christian and I have talked about them so many times.
A lot of times.
All of those look better than what I have on the shelf right now. Right. The only one I actually have on order is the Inferno one, because I'm going to own as many Infernos as I want and be happy with it. And I don't care. But for any, like he's coming with Airazor, right? And I don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to try to sell the old Airazor no one else would want? Am I going to sell the nice one because it'll be easier? What am I going to do? I don't even know.
I think a lot of my rentals that would be more traditional rentals stem from impulse. Like right now with like the Ross craziness, where you walk into Ross, you don't know what you're going to find. You might find, Crasher, or you might find a Crasher, or a Shadow, whatever strip. And it's like, well, here it is. It's $7. Like, sure, $7, and then I get home and it's like, why do I even have any of the others?
Well, the thing that's crazy about that too is like some of those figures showing up at Ross are extremely hard to get and are going for really high prices on the secondary market. So it's like, oh, you can go pick a Crasher up for $7 and then flip it for, I don't know what, like, and it may have went down now that they've released more at Ross, but like you can make a pretty good amount on that.
Two recent examples of toys that I'm trying my hardest to not be rentals was the Toxitron and Scourge. I got the Scourge at Ross after looking like 6-7 different stores. I finally found one. And I was like, $18 for this. This is great. And then I bought the Toxitron because I really like the colors, and also like this is the first official Toxitron outside of the BotCon ones. And I'm like, well, in my little weirdo brain, I'm like, well, these can go together because they're both G2 technically, probably, and they look cool together. So I'm trying my hardest to not make those rentals because I actually really enjoy the color schemes on both of them, and it's a pretty fun mold. I'm gonna tell you.
Color schemes are good.
If I sell either one, he can call me out.
If you spend a lot of time on trying to get those tracked down, though, like, do you feel like you're less likely to sell it in the future? Or because, like, to me, I feel like if I put a lot of effort, I don't know that I'd want to get rid of them.
I think so. And I was telling Christian that, like, it had been a really long time since I had hunted like that, like actively gone to multiple stores. Like the day that I called him, that I found it, I mean, I had a free Saturday where I had nothing planned. And I decided to drive to 4 or 5 different stores. And I finally found one. And I'm like, that was actually pretty fun. I mean, like, sure, in the grand scheme of things, it seems silly to waste 4 or 5 hours of a Saturday and all this gas money to find one $18 figure. But I mean, I had fun. And I think you're right. I think because I did that, and it's not just, I found it at the first store I went to. Let me check this out. It's like I spent hours and I invested so much time into this. I'm probably going to keep it. Yeah.
I don't believe any toy in my collection has had the experience of being hunted for, beyond clicking pre-order.
Yeah, I think that's another discussion for another day. We did come up with a topic like that on the road trip here, was how the retail landscape is changing. And I think going forward, I think online shopping, online only for collecting is starting to become the norm. I think most people, it's easy to just, click that button and have it show up, And
it will show up.
Well, depending on where you order from.
Usually.
Usually. 9 times out of 10.
Usually if you're hunting, you won't find it.
Right.
We have the luxury of enjoying a toy line, though, that has a solid resale value. I mean, with any Hasbro, you can realistically expect half of your retail purchase back. Often more, usually more, but half is just, if you just count it as half, everything else is bonus.
Yep.
I could even get half of that Siege Magnus if I was willing to.
Right. Third party, closer to equal value. Or retail, more or less.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
That really helps a lot in being able to rent, because you can buy with confidence knowing, if I don't like it, to eBay you go.
And even some older stuff, like I was talking to another buddy the other day about how you would think that with the Studio Series, a lot of the older movie stuff would just tank. but all that stuff is still retaining value. You know, especially like the leaders, the larger figures, especially the exclusives are holding value. You know, despite the new Studio Series versions coming out, and even some older classics I've noticed, like they may not be, you know, fetching what they used to back in their heyday, but like, you know, they're also not chump change for like. We have a buddy of ours who's selling some Henkei stuff at the convention coming up. I was looking through his list of prices, and I mean, they're again not as high as they were 10 years ago, but they're still pretty high. I mean, $50 for like a deluxe, that's still pretty hefty.
I feel like if anyone knows why those old movie figures are still popular with people, it should be you, Serge, because you were actually relatively young back in 2007 when that first movie came out. So those toys were some people's kid toys, right? Like I've noticed that recently I've been weaker to getting back kid toys. Like when I don't make a plan to do it, but when I suddenly end up getting back a toy I enjoyed as a child, it just has this like warm feeling, like I'm never going to let you go again. Like I just recently had a chance to get a G1 Point Blank, and that was a favorite kids toy. I never made a plan to get one, but I'm really excited about having it again. I'm just not gonna let it get away from me again. So that's a part of this fandom that's interesting. It's just that things keep value because they keep value to us.
Yeah.
Someone.
And it is pretty unique to Transformers. You look at other toy lines, I mean, you know, how many people are clamoring for Attack of the Clones Anakin from like back in the day? I mean, like, you know, with a lot of the Star Wars stuff, it's like they're coming out with so much new things. Like, what do you really need the old stuff for? Right. I mean, you might still get some money for like the harder to find 3 3/4 figures, but like as soon as something new shiny comes out, it's like nobody wants this. I mean, how many flea markets you go to with it's just nothing but Power of the Force? You know, it's just 20 years later. Yeah, like nobody wants it. Whereas Transformers, it's so cool to have like an older version, because at least with humans, and that's another topic that we talked about. Yep. I think with human figures, it's like there's not much charm in an older human figure that has like 4 points of articulation, right? Outside of like vintage.
It looked like a dude then. It looks like a dude now.
Versus Transformers, it's, you know, when you get 3 different versions of the same continuity character, it's cool to see how 10, 15 years of engineering has changed the design. Or it's like, how many ways can they make this transform? Right. Really, how many times can they reinvent the wheel? It is cool to own stuff like that and be able to compare how stuff has changed. You know, how engineering compares to how they used to be. And again, like that throwback aspect of like, hey, I remember when I first bought this. It takes you back to that time when it first came out. Yep. It's a pretty unique and great feeling with this brand.
Well, and I think too, if you have like a Bumblebee collection, right? Like each one looks relatively unique compared to the other ones. You know, you might have some ones that they look similar, but for the most part, they're, you know, somewhat different. Whereas, like, if you just had, like, 100 Luke Skywalkers, it's like, okay, well, it just looks weird. You know what I mean?
Here's the guy.
Yeah.
He looks like...
Yeah, you get, like, 100, you know, Episode 6 Luke Skywalkers with the black Jedi gear. It's like, you put them on a shelf, it's just a bunch of Luke Skywalkers with black Jedi gear on.
Yeah, but they look really nice next to that Mark Hamill restraining order. It's all autographed and everything.
We're pretty blessed with the brand. We have a lot of unique stuff that I feel like only Transformers can get away with.
Yep, I agree.
I just pulled out my camera to illustrate your point by showing my RC collection. A bunch of very different looking toys, very different looking RCs. They're all RC, but they're all very different.
Yeah, and even like stuff.
No restraining order.
Outside of G1, like movie, like the first movie Prime, like there's a billion of those, but if you put them all together, like the majority of them look different from each other.
We get to see reinvented versions of our characters and friends, and that's not a thing. Like the most recent thing with Marvel Legends has been like, now we have double pinless knees and elbows. Yeah, like that's an incredible action figure innovation where they don't have, you know, pins showing. But does that change how the character looks or how the toy functions?
Yeah. And, really. And even in like the Star Wars, it's like, here's Darth Vader. Well, he's Darth Vader with red eyes.
Right. Here's Darth Vader with, you know, half a mask, or the lightsaber's longer. It's like,
It's like this cape has a weighted.
It's still him.
Yeah,
like it's different.
Right.
And I feel like that stings more. Like the few Black series that I do have, it does sting more when it's like, here's a Boba Fett. Here's an episode 6 Boba Fett, but it comes with flames now. Where, like you said, it's like the pinless ones.
Yep.
And it's like, depending on how you display your stuff, it's like it really can't matter.
Right.
Well, they're toys. Not everybody else's toys can be as fun as ours.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that's where we got with the human stuff. It's like humans are humans, but robots can literally be anything.
And Lucas, you and I talk about incremental upgrades all the time and how good or bad they are, but we can do them because that fundamentally changes our figures. Not that and like the human figures we're talking about, Luke Skywalker, it doesn't fundamentally change what that is.
Right.
Yeah, you're basically getting a new experience every time with the different transformation, and even if they do share transformation aspects, like sometimes if there's no need to reinvent the wheel, they don't, and they'll have similar transformations in certain parts, like MPM Optimus and ROTF Optimus. Like fundamentally, they're pretty similar in transformation, but they're still two different experiences.
Right.
Two different.
Or you get to enjoy the same sideswipe 14 times in different colors.
You could.
Even with the very frustrating recent Ironhide, right, from Siege to Earthrise to Studio Series 86, those are 3 different toys, right? They're like, if you were an Ironhide collector, and I actually don't know any Ironhide collectors, but if you were one, you would want all 3 of those, just like I want all the Bumblebees, right, and all the RCs, because I collect those characters, but those Ironhides are all different, and they would look kind of interesting together for some degree of display if you're really into Ironhide.
And even when the new one comes out, if the new one's still hard to find, the old one is still expensive.
Yep.
Or people will buy another version of the mold if they can't get the original version of the mold, and even that brings up the value.
Yeah.
So okay. So we've talked.
We've gone afield.
Sorry. We've gone afield, but in a good way, because I think we've hit on something that I think is really important, and that's the attachment level with a lot of our toys. Like me talking about wanting back a G1 figure and never think I would want that back, or Christian literally using the word friend to refer to some of the toys, right? That is an attachment level to our figures. And that's one of the other things I really wanted to talk about tonight, is why is the concept of toy renting so threatening to so many of us? Because when
throwing away each other's childhoods.
Right. When Catherine talks about renting toys, especially if it's a toy we both enjoyed, and she's like, yeah, I think I'm finally done with it. That it's something like we talked about when it first came out and we enjoyed it together. I'm like, how dare you?
I think
how dare you throw that away? Jeez.
Yeah, I think it's the financial aspect for a lot of people, which I think is a valid criticism because, especially nowadays where prices are going up for everything and it's a lot more expensive to purchase these, unnecessary items. I think a lot of people look at these and it's like, why would I buy something, lose $20, $30, down the road reselling it when I could just not buy it and save that $30 that I would have lost. Like, right. I think that's what I've heard from a lot of people, when it's like, why would you do that when because I do see a lot of people, there are some people who truly do not care about the financial aspect. And I have seen some folks on local groups who will buy $100 toy and then a couple weeks later they're selling it for $50. Like some folks like that, they just don't care about recouping their money. And I think cases like that is where people bring up a lot of criticism, where they just don't see the point in purposely losing money. But then to some people, it's not losing money because you're still enjoying it to an extent.
Right.
So I guess it's just the way that you look at it.
It's not always about the money, though. One of my big motivators is space. I live in California. Mm-hmm. Housing is expensive out here. I have room for a lovely collection right now. I may not always. Well, it's one of the trade-offs for living out here, and it's worth it. But if you live in an urban area, space matters.
Yeah, or
a lot of giant collections in New York City, I wouldn't think.
I do have my own house. You do have your own house, and even then, even if you have your own house, you still don't have infinite space.
Right, you saw what space I have out.
So I need to constantly be keeping my collection to a certain size, almost a one in, one out type situation.
And
but
that's
not so
kind of the ideal way that me and Christian want to be someday, because we were just talking about how, I think the dynamic is starting to shift with a lot of people of it's not so much about quantity anymore, because you can't reasonably enjoy like a huge amount of stuff, especially when the majority of it is sitting in a bin for months, years on end, where you forget it even exists. Like, what is the point of having it if it's just sitting there? Yeah, you might be able to resell it someday, but like that day might be decades away. You're just holding on to the stuff, and it's like to me that's starting to become of like, what's the point?
Yep, I'm around there too. Like, how much of a back catalog do I really want to have? Like, if it's not the stuff I want to display, why do I want to have it?
Yeah, but
we're working on it.
I do think like just so one, touching on the financial thing too, I think part of it is that okay, we hate losing money on our figures, right? But then on the flip side of that, if you sell your figure for a profit, it's almost like looked down upon. That people are like, oh, you're a scalper, like you're or like, oh, why can't you give me a deal on this fanbro price? And so it's like, oh, like I can give you a deal selling, but I'm not allowed to, like make a tidy profit on something. So I think that's probably part of the reason why it's like kind of looked down upon is that, people are like, oh, you bought MP44 when it first came out, and then now like that's hard to find. Like you're gonna like jack up the price.
Yeah, there is some guilt towards actually making money off your toys. Like people guilt you. Like I feel no guilt. I'm always happy when I do it. Although I do have one personal example where I did sell my Tentakill to a local guy last year at Expo, and I sold it for a lot. And whenever I see him post on Facebook, I always get that like small twinge of guilt because it's like, oh man, I took so much of that guy's money and I could have sold it for cheaper. And then I think, well, that money sure felt good. It sure bought more toys.
Or say if you don't labels a figure as a knockoff and then you just tell a friend to like watch your booth and sell things for you, and then he sells them to an unsuspecting child, and they then you make a tidy profit on that because he sold it for the MP price and not the knockoff price.
I'm glad we finally made it to the point where you can mention that out loud on the show, Lucas. Because I remember a couple years ago, I tried to bring it up on the show, and you were like, "Don't say that out loud."
Oh, it's fine. It's far enough in the review now at this point. So
it was so funny when I got back and you told me, and I was like, "But that was my knockoff."
We all love that thrill of like selling a figure for way more than we paid for it. It's fun. It's exciting. Well, it is one of the bonuses of like having a hobby you can sell in.
Yeah, and I mean at the end of the day too, it's like, sure you can cut somebody a deal, but like also get your money. It's like why if that's truly the going rate, why would you sell it for well under? I mean, it's like you can use that money to buy more, or you can use that money to buy something you really, really want.
Yes. My collection's not entirely self-sustaining, but it's not far off.
That's cool.
Well, I'm curious too, at what point does and obviously I know that we're all like, just agree with it, the market price is the market price. But like, people aren't going to argue as much about a vintage G1 figure, like if you sell a complete Megatron or whatever, you're not going to sell it for what you originally bought it back in 1985 or whatever. So, like, at what point, is it something where it's like, oh, it's a vintage collectible. It's not, you're not trying to scalp something that like just came out. Like, 2 years.
That's a wildly different topic.
I think it still boils down to knowledge, because like, I mean, I can't imagine. I never
difference between grave robbing and archaeology.
Yeah, like I personally have experienced it where I put something up that I know is very valuable, and you get a ton of people giving you shit for it solely because they don't know what it is. You know, like I remember years ago, I was trying to sell the BotCon custom class Shattered Glass Ratchet, which was like not only the only way could you get it was attend the custom class, but you also had to choose to make that because there was like 3 choices that year on who to make. So like there's no number. There's no way possible to know how many of those exist in the world. So when I was trying to sell it, I was literally making the market. And I got a ton of people giving me shit for it. And then the guy who bought it was like, don't worry, like I know exactly what you have. This is a price I'm willing to pay. And we were able to work it out. And I still see some people like doing that with like retail stuff, like, you know, laughing at a price when it's like, you should go check the market, dude. Like, you know, they're not just making this stuff up. Yep. And I think because G1 is known as like the vintage, it's known as like the first, I think more people tend to like be like, okay, that seems like it's the market price versus like, you know, a lot of people are like prime, you know, that came out like 3 years ago. And it's like,
how was Unicron Trilogy demanding high prices? Because those were, you know, cheap kid toys.
Yeah, for the longest time, nobody wanted those. Yeah, for the longest time, nobody wanted those. And for the longest time, those were chucked in the $5 bins at cons. And now it's, you know, the leader classes are fetching $100 more.
Yeah, because a lot of those cheap ones just got worse and worse conditions as kids handled them and people who didn't care too much handled them. So now they're more and more rare as time goes.
Yep.
I think that could be like a really glorifying form of renting, though. Like when you get something that you know is going to be popular and you get to keep it for a while and play with it, and then like a couple years later you sell it and you're kind of excited about like what you did with that.
I did rent something pretty crazy. Do you guys remember when I bought that Buzzsaw pre-production art and materials and stuff? No, I kept that. But it came with a prototype Waspinator. But I never intended to keep that Waspinator because it's just Waspinator and I care about Buzzsaw because I'm a weirdo. Mm-hmm. So I was intending to sell that on immediately to try and recoup the cost of buying the actual stuff.
Oh, I remember you did. You sold it really fast.
Yeah, I sold it to Swift, another member of the cast. And we got a good price that we agreed on, and it was out the door within a week. It was nice to have it for a moment, though.
Yeah, I've done that a lot. I've done that a few times with exclusives. You know, like I got the BotCon 2016 Megatron when I attended the con. Like I got it. It was a really cool figure. It was a beautiful figure, but you know, I sold it for like $600 because $600 is a lot of money. And I was like, and I don't really regret it. Not so much because of the money. Like it is part of it, but like I've already owned it. Yep. I've messed with it. I had it for a while. Like I don't really need it anymore.
Yeah. And I will say that especially early on, the thought of renting a figure or like the fact that the figures would hold value, I think like enabled me a little bit more to buy more figures. Cause I'm like, well, if I get this and I don't like it, I can just flip it and I'm not really going to lose any money. Whereas like if you, again, like we said, if you do that with like Star Wars or something like that, like you're just going to get crushed. So I'm hoping when you rebought those Black Series figures, Serge, that you it wasn't like a bad financial investment on your part.
No, Black Series. I think Black Series is the worst ran Hasbro brand. A lot of the ones when I like initially sold it and then decided to get back into it, a lot of them I bought like on heavy discount on like Amazon, like discount stores like Ross and TJ Maxx like would get them in every now and then. They just like I think the vast majority of Black Series figures are just not worth a lot.
There's like 10 that are valuable, and then the rest are just
at or under retail. You know, like you said, how many Luke Skywalkers possibly could people want? Like they've released the X-Wing pilot, I think like 4 times at this point. Like you could find one for dumb cheap. And I think it is easier when it's easier to get back in. I think you're more susceptible to doing the Primal's pretty crazy. That's a crazy example.
Yep, but each time, I paid full retail for him one time. Other times I was able to get him for deal.
And and then that makes it a little bit more enticing because it's like the thrill of a deal. You're like, oh, I've been missing
deal
this.
renting.
Yeah, here's your really good deal. Screw it, I'll get it.
That was my biggest vice that I had to quit doing. Like I stopped picking things up on clearance. Like the Ross figures, I have both of those we showed, but like I would go and get whatever was there because I could afford it, and it was just like, where does this go?
And I almost did that today. We went to Target to pick up some groceries, and right next to the Target there was a Ross, and we were like, well, we have nothing to do. Let's go to Ross, and we found like a single buzzsaw and then 2 of the reissue Beast Wars Megatrons. And I already have one in the package. And I was like, well, $12, I could probably get one to open one. And then I was like,
that is such an important habit to break.
Yeah, I was like, I should just I put it back down. I'm like, I'm just gonna keep the $12. I've handled the mold before. I don't need it.
It's not that he couldn't afford the $12. It's just that you could put the $12 somewhere else he wanted more.
Yeah, I mean the con is coming up later this week. Like, what if I was down to my last $12? Like, I was like, no, I spent it on the Megatron. Now I can buy this.
Now you can pay $12 higher on a toy that you want, but you didn't like the price on.
I could. See, like, it's the allure and like the rush, the enticement of getting a deal or finally finding something for cheap at the store that like you're like, whatever, I'll pick it up and worry about it later. And then on the drive home, you're like, why did I buy this?
Yeah.
I think I deal rented today. Like, I think this will probably end up being a deal rental for me. Little friend Maverick. Like, it is. Because, this thing was selling so cheap from Walmart.
Yeah, and he told me about did she get the Jurassic Park set off Amazon? Because didn't it go down to like $35 or who bought
it? It did.
Did you buy one?
I had one for a while ago, unfortunately, but
the Magnus on sale. That's what I figured you could buy today.
I got one of those at full retail. I still have not opened it for whatever reason. And I feel like I should just at this point open it, like, because I'm never going to be able to sell it.
When he told me that it was on sale, my girlfriend bought me one for Christmas, like the year that they came out, and that's such a cool set in package that is really. I didn't have it open mine either. I have it displayed.
They're at Jurassic Park.
I have it displayed because I love how it looks in package, and the box art is fantastic. I'm a big Jurassic Park fan. I love everything about that set. And now there's $35, and I'm like, well, maybe I should get one to open.
You should.
And so that's like another thing that I've been teeter-tottering, but also because it's the week of the con, I'm just like, let me wait.
It is a shame we'll never see that mold as a cyberjet.
I know. It
never happened.
It's not as good of a cyberjet as I thought it would be, but it still is kind of an updated cyberjet. It has some friendship with that.
That has to be the worst collaboration figure, right?
I think so. I think it's pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah,
like that is the one
such
figure.
A bummer, right?
What? Tom Cruise, the toy is bad?
Yeah, X-Pants.
Oh,
X-Pants
yeah,
is pretty bad
X-Pants
too. But at least the colors look good.
Yeah.
You know who's the worst collab figure? J Balvintron.
Oh,
I like J Balvintron. I like the colors.
Fine.
It's funky. G2 Soundwave.
Or G2 Soundwave. Kind of.
It's amusing.
I'm motivated.
But like,
I will say,
I would love those colors on the new mold.
That would be very fun, yeah.
And I will say that even at the reduced price, that Maverick, like, I'm still not biting. I don't care. Not doing it.
It's like I don't think it's not worth $20. Like, I think at that point it's worth it. I just think, like, I like it. I want to play with it. I'm having fun with it. I'm probably going to transport it multiple times. You can run around, do jet sounds, whatever you do with your toys. But I have a feeling in a few years I'm going to look back at it, or maybe even months, and be like, wait a second.
And at least
I've never seen Top Gun.
At least when it was illegal, if you end up hating it, it's like, whatever, it's $20.
Yeah. Right. And by the time I get rid of it, it probably won't be on sale anymore. It probably won't be around, and I'll get at least what I paid for it back on it, and that's fine. Whatever. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. Versus if you bought it at full price, and it's like, why?
Oh yeah. It would definitely be lost money if I got it at full price.
You really need to stop doing this. You were a lot worse than you know what? He's exposed. He's the biggest renter of us all. He's the worst.
The biggest rancher?
The biggest renter. He's the biggest.
Oh.
Again, you
Wait,
say
the
that like it's a bad
Christian?
thing.
Why is Christian the biggest renter?
Oh, because I bought that Maverick figure at full price twice.
See? It's
Oh
like,
my god,
twice?
what?
the more we talk, the more it comes out of how many figures you've bought multiple times.
Technically.
So did you get rid of the
I
first
bought the
one?
with
Or do you...
the first
Okay.
date that didn't exist, and then I bought the one with the second date where it actually did come out. So, like, it's different.
But you're not that guy.
I'm not that guy.
You're not that guy.
You know,
Yeah,
on that note, Christian, could I interest you in some Kang Toys Predacons?
No. I had that mini one and I didn't like it. I don't like it.
Oh, no, the mini's great. The mini's a forever toy.
Mini's
But I've had my fun with the full size now, and I'm ready to send them on their way.
You told me on Saturday you had decided you were keeping them for a while again. That was 2 days ago.
Yeah, but if I can sell them to Christian,
The famous Computron debacle. I had
Which debacle?
Computron. So I had Combiner Wars Computron and I bought Unite Warriors Computron. And I was like, you know what? I really like the Hasbro one better. I'm going to sell it. So I did, and it was fine. And everything was good. And then Transform Dreamwave came up with their kit with the chest and the hands and the gun. It made it all look so much better. And I was like, oh, now I like this one better. So I had to buy another Unite Warriors Computron. And I still have those to this day. That one wasn't as extreme.
But I think the worst part was that
Here's the worst part.
he spent a solid 2 months back and forth asking me which one he should get. And at the time, I had the Unite Warriors one. And I was like, dude, this is a fantastic set. Get this one. And he's like, whoa, I don't know. I like the colors of the Hasbro. I like this about the Hasbro.
Too.
And I was like, well, okay, well, then get the Hasbro. Like, whoa, I don't know. And it was just a back and forth for a solid 2 months of which one I should get. And then you were like, well, let me get both. And then you sold one and then bought it back again. And
Yes, what happened to that set of Unite Warriors Computron that you had?
was that yours?
It lives with me now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even remember who I sold it to.
It was me.
Good. Well, at least it's still within this. Maybe I'll buy it back.
Not selling it back. I like it.
How you do?
I guess
See, we're all guilty. We've all played with the renting idea.
So
I feel like
will
it's just a lot more.
3 MPG doors.
I was gonna say, I will say that Christian helped me the other day, and I know that earlier in the chat, Road Pig John had mentioned about the Decepticon 3-pack that's coming out, and then the Starscream Ghost set, right? And the price that came out is pretty reasonable. It's $110 from Takara, or well, I guess it's on Pulse, but it's through Takara, whatever. And so I was like, ooh. Incremental upgrade, and I posed it to Christian. Christian's like, no man, you don't need that. So, and that could have been a rental situation for me, because I could see I could get it in and be like, I might as well flip this.
I can see that happening to me too. Catherine and I just talked about the possibility of getting that set as well, and it's like that set is definitely something to make you rent. Because it's either going to make you rent the original releases by getting rid of them, or you're going to realize you shouldn't have gotten it and then let it go.
Plus, we've got to make room for, the 86 version of each of those figures next year.
Right? Absolutely.
I personally think 86 is going to drag on for years. I think they're going to keep... Because to touch every single character with 86, even though a lot of them have recently come out in not 86, like the Insecticons, for them all to get 86, it's going to take forever. They're just going to do it every once in a while. Just be like, oh, look, here you go.
Yeah, there's rumors of Prime coming out in 86. There's other rumors of other previously released recently released characters. I mean, I think them doing that Magnus, it's really close to the Kingdom one.
2 years.
Super close. So yeah, I think they are going to drag it out. And
that is a mold I regret not getting to rent. I never rented any of that Siege Magnus mold.
Tell you what, I can send you one, Catherine.
Yeah.
There you go.
Take your pick, Shattered Glass or Siege. I can send you either one of
The
those.
Shattered Glass one was. Well, I thought you were going to send me that one.
Because you wanted to like, but didn't you literally just want to look at it and send it back? Like, wasn't that really your plan with that one?
That one I just wanted to transform it once, F around with it for like an hour and then send it back.
By definition,
it's a bad transformer.
That is renting right there.
Yeah, I wasn't willing to commit to Magnus.
But that's renting from the library. When you're renting from a friend like that, you're doing it for free. So it's like, go to the library, check it out.
It would be tough to enforce, but hear me out. At anime conventions, they have like manga libraries where you can go chill and like read a manga to escape. Like, what if TFcon did like a toy library where it's like, hey, I'm thinking about picking up this mold. Well, here it is. I can mess with it. Like, I'm sure they'd have to patrol to make sure people don't pocket, missiles and entire figures. But that seems like a pretty cool concept of like, hey, let me test run this figure while I'm here. Like, I think that'd be a pretty cool thing to do. Yeah.
I look forward
way back.
Doing it.
Remember way back at TFcon when some of the companies used to do like show-off sessions you could sign up for, where you would go and play with prototypes and you'd get to like sit at a table and transform them.
When we say some of the companies, there was one company in particular, and it was like 7 years ago.
It was 7 years ago. I remember that. Was it just Make Toys that did it a couple times? It was Make Toys, right? Okay.
I think they only did it once, to be honest.
I've been to two of them.
Did you?
Yeah.
I swear it was just the one, because they did the one with like they had their jazz prototype, right? And they had the gosh, what was the other one? There was a couple of them.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I can't remember what else they had.
Was that the first Chicago?
Maybe it was.
Yeah, it was the Chicago one. But like I swear that was the only time they did that.
Wasn't it like one of the Dinobot combiners?
I'm almost sure they did it again, but the first time they gave out a free figure when you did it, and the second time they did it. That's what I remember, because I was a little sad that I didn't get my cool keepsake the second time.
So yeah, that's a cool thing that they could
That was really cool. I love that. It made me. The funny thing is, it made me not want to buy any of those toys because they were all frustrating to transform. And doing it at a table without instructions was even worse.
That would save a lot of heartache for a lot of years.
So did you sign up for like a specified time slot?
Yeah, that was specified time slots, and it was very limited too. They only had like.
That makes sense, because I was thinking like if you just sign up and put a bunch of people in a room, then you fight over like by hogging it for like 30 minutes. That's a cool.
It was a really cool concept.
Yeah.
Like that. Doing something like that again would be really fun.
With a prototype, a lot of variables could happen. You never know. Someone could fat finger a prototype, and it's like, well, this is the only one we have. Literally the only copy.
Yeah.
We broke it.
Yeah, I think the ones that they had, I think, were like test shots, so they weren't like there was multiples of them, and yeah, they were like almost in production type of thing. Oh, they had the that Megatron from the hell is that Cross Dimension line? They had that, and then they also had, what was the God, like I'm thinking of is it Crosshairs? What was the one that they had? There was the third party whatever.
Oh, did they actually have Contact Shot there?
Or Contact
Shot. The point blank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did end up with that one. So that it took years for me to get it, but I ended up getting that.
Yeah.
So I guess it sold me on it, because that one wasn't frustrating. Out of all three that I messed with at that session, that was the only one that wasn't frustrating.
So no, I actually liked. Ironically, I liked that figure the least of the ones that they had there. So.
I don't like that jazz.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have gotten more into that cross dimension line too if they would have kept going. But that's kind of, again, back to the, figures had to fit together. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do with, this, like when they only released a couple of them. So.
Yep. Hard to do.
Though something that I don't think any of us do that you can do at cons. If you go to like TFcon, there are the vendors who have the glass cases with figures. And if like during a dead time you go up to the person watching the case and you say, hey, can I check that out? They will let you check it out.
I've
and
started
a lot
doing
of times,
that.
you know.
Yeah.
I've seen pretty regularly there with
where if you ask like, hey, do you mind if I check it out? I've seen them do it a couple times. I think it depends on the toy.
Well, and I don't know, like, if you're like, oh, hey, can I check it out? That, you know, they'll let you sit there and spend 45 minutes, like, transforming.
Right. I've seen them, like, I've overheard them, like, yeah, like, the knees can do this, the weapon goes here, and stuff like that. Though they make sure that they, like, you know, are on top of you, like, all right, that's enough.
Right. So
I went one year with a friend and he spent like an entire 8-hour rotation in the dealer's room doing that. That's all he did. He just went from vendor to vendor, going through the case and be like, I want to try that one. I want to try that one. Guy gets tired of him, goes to the next vendor, does it for a while, just rotate around for the full 8 hours.
It's not a dealership.
It was so fun, but at the same time, that's probably pushing it just a little bit. It's a lot of toy transforming.
I mean, we've spent our time arguably in dumber ways, but that's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad.
I don't know. Like, I feel like most of us spend the entire time the dealer's room open in it in one way or another. You know, whether we're actually shopping or talking to our friends or messing with something. Like, I think we do spend the whole time in there.
Horribly negotiating.
The negotiating something that needs to die, right? Like,
I just need to stop. I just need to stop.
This man negotiated. So he wanted to bundle two things together. The price he came up with was the price of the two things together.
Yeah, I think it was.
Then the seller said no.
Yeah,
they both didn't know how to do math. And I was just standing there. I was watching it happen. I was like,
it was funny because I was like, hey, would you take like, it was like 40? Would you take 40? And the guy was like, no. And then he's like, wait. yes, that's what they thought. Master negotiator. To be fair, it was like Saturday. I had like 2 hours of sleep. It was, I think it was it Baltimore?
It was Baltimore after the crazy stock exchange morning.
Baltimore was one of the madness ones, right?
We were all hanging out in Paul's room until like
Baltimore
5
was
a.m.
bad.
It was just not a good time. It was not my best. Not my best.
Oh my god! I want to start doing that. I want to start doing that at TFcon. Just going up and like asking that if they'll take like whatever the price posted is on the two.
It could be a master tactic if they don't notice. If they don't notice, it could be a master tactic.
Oh god.
Terrible.
Or would it even be better is if you offer more than like what they have. Like if that would be even better.
The best part was that they both didn't do it. That was.
I think that was the funnier part. Was that both of us horribly failed, rather than me just getting like math checks.
It's just Kristen standing there like, what is happening?
It was like a tennis match. He was like,
the thing is like all of those dealers are so used to someone being like, will you take? Like, I'm sure that they hear that like 500 times.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Oh god.
It's really funny.
That is a great story. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, hopefully my negotiations later this week go a lot better. A lot better.
I just want to hear and see the things that you guys are going to be renting from the convention, right?
I'm
Tell
sure
you, convention.
There will be one. There will be one. I'm sure there will be one. Happens almost every year.
Oh yeah. Like I was trying to think like how many things recently. I was trying to think like how many things I've gotten at a convention have I actually kept, and it's not a great number, right? Like I think I literally from my first convention I went to, my first TFcon that I went to, I think literally I don't even know which. It's MMC, right? MMC did the backdraft that was the Inferno, I think. Anyway, that's the only thing I have left. I bought so much stuff at my first TFcon. Everything else I sold. One of them I even freaking rented. I Christianed that one. Damn it! I just realized that the Fans Toy Swoop. I had it. I got rid of it. I thought about it for a few years, and I got it again.
That what we're
I
calling
still have it now.
That is a new term named after me.
I Christianed it.
I'll be remembered forever.
I Christianed it.
See, we're all renters.
We are.
Yeah.
I think that's the moral of the story.
Well,
Some of us are just a little prouder of it.
the
the end
thing
of the
I
day,
think is
collecting
funny
Just one big rental.
is before the show, they're like, oh, like we don't have people that are renters that are coming on the show. What are you talking about? Like, you know, it's like, oh, Anna and Christian and I, like, we don't do that. And then come to find out,
Surprise.
you know, we're just
Surprise,
as guilty
surprise.
as the next person.
Surprise.
Well, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, Lucas, you had one of the biggest rentals, probably two of the biggest rentals of any of us, but you didn't really expect it to be rentals at the time. You know, you went through at least two MP phases and a Legends phase.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of those figures
was a
every
lot.
time. You didn't you didn't dip into Legends. You dove into Legends face first.
Yeah, that's
Those
the
rabbit
reason
holes are
why.
the-
That's the reason why I had to get out, is because I was like, if I don't cut myself off, like I'm like, again, I'm like, you know, what
Addict.
Serge said, where it's like, I had to have them go together. And so like, if I open that door, I can't just have one, I have to have the line. So
And
it's,
Legends is a slippery slope because it's
Yeah.
not just one company. It's like 10 companies making a hound, you know, and it's like
Right.
you got to choose who's the best hound. And then suddenly you're paying $100 for a Legends figure.
well, not only that, like they've changed up their scale like 500 times. So,
Right.
you know, then none of the stuff actually fits together. So
Legends is not a coherent scale anymore. It went
No.
totally off the hook when Magic Square and New Age were both trying to like outdo each other, and they ended up creating like 5 subscales. And not sub lines, but subscales by accident. And it makes any Legends collection just looks like this menagerie of sizes.
I have really enjoyed my foray into Iron Factory's Samurai,
yeah.
which doesn't belong with anything else at all, but they're just so damn cool on their own.
No, I will agree that I feel like that Iron Factory, if I would have just like, you know, bought them and kept them and stuck with them, then I'd probably be pretty happy with that, because they had their original line that went for years and years and years, and then now they're doing their samurai line. But like it is impossible to go back and find some of those older figures like once they're gone.
If they go up high, Iron Factory old toys went up way too high back in the day. But you seem to enjoy those the most out of all your Legends renting. You seem to really enjoy your time with Iron Factory.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can appreciate all of them, and you know, that's where I do like going to conventions. And so then when, you know, Catherine buys the new Legends third-party figure, that I can say, hey, can I check that out, and you know, play with it too, because it's fun to check that stuff out. And honestly, I've considered like renting Masterpiece figures, just because, you know, like when you guys get in the newest like Fans toys, or you get in the new Masterpiece, or, you know, whatever it may be, like I would like to check those out myself too. But it's like, well, I don't want to go through. Yeah, but I just don't want to go through the whole thing of like spending, you know, whatever, $150 or $200, whatever, up front, and then get it
After you've sold it, you're probably out like $20 between shipping, taxes, and little niggling fees here and there. But overall, that's $20 is how much time would you values entertainment would you get in any other format for about $20?
Right. Well, and you know, how many Hasbro Deluxes do I have? If you're talking, it's $20 at the end of the day. Like,
yeah, I mean, if you spend like a week fiddling around with it, and then you go on and talk to Rob and Peter about it for a little bit, you've got your values worth right there.
Right.
Don't worry, Lucas. I'll bring over Rhinox.
There you go.
He'll be the revisit to the braid him over, so you can mess with them.
My only problem with that is then, Anna, when you bring that stuff over, I'm like worried about breaking it. So then like I can't fully transform it. It's like when you brought your hound over, I'm like, I like got halfway through.
Literally sold him on Transformed. That thing was so stressful. That was one of the most stressful toys I've ever owned. That thing just caused me so much stress. I literally brought it on Transformed, said, hey, I'm not transforming it, buy it like this. People were excited. They bought it. It's gone. Thank goodness. So glad I don't own it anymore. Rhinox won't be that bad.
Serge, do you collect third party? Do you collect third party?
I have some. It's all movie, and then the one that isn't movies, the Fans Hobby Armada stuff. The Prime and the Megatron, but that's about it. It's not much.
Just a little dabbling. All right.
Did you get rid of the Prime and the Megatron when the mainline ones came out, Serge? Because a lot of people did.
I thought about it. I talked to Christian and I was thinking about it, but then I made a really cool display.
You did
with all three, like the vintage, the new one, the new Hasbro, and the Fans Hobby, and I ended up keeping because I liked how much the display that I made looked. Yeah.
Fans Hobby makes really good toys. Like their stuff is just so solid now.
I like it.
Very good at making toys.
Are they?
Christian wants to be picky, but
third party resells very well.
Yeah. Yeah,
typically.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of cases where some of it's fragile.
But, well, there's some, there's not everything, of course. Right. If it's been on clearance at BBTS, maybe not.
Right.
The fragility is what worries me. I just worry that some of it, I'm going to break it, then I don't get to resell it anymore, right? That it's mine forever once I break it.
Yeah. Broke it.
I actually haven't broken that many figures. It's just something I worry about a lot. It's a big worry for me.
Yeah.
Every time I break a figure, I just give up on it and ship it off to Anna.
You do. In fact, I still have a one-armed blaster that I need to figure out how I'm going to make that arm stay on so I can display them.
Which blaster?
Transistor. KFC Transistor. Just a nice, normal red blaster.
He got in a fight with the Predacons and lost, and didn't know what to do with a broken third-party toy, so I was like, just sent it to Anna.
Yeah, it's still here. Still here, one arm. Had a clever idea to try to fix it, never got around to it. Just kind of still exists.
It was years ago.
It was years ago.
The point is, we play with our toys.
Well, do we have any other points or topics we want to bring up with the renting thing?
I got everything off my chest.
Yeah, I think I'm also done.
My primary point that
I have to go reflect.
Renting, the latest, the greatest. Own it all.
Nice
and just cycle it out to the next guy who's excited they getting a shot at it finally.
My primary thing I wanted to discuss with Renty was just why it bothers some of us so much, and I think we got that out. We didn't really discuss it too formally, but I think just kind of discussing attachment to the toys. That's part of why renting is bothersome to others. Some people are bothered by you making money off your toys, and I think a lot of it really just does come down to the term collecting kind of infers keeping. And when you're cycling out toys, when you're renting them, you've kind of defined what the word collecting means. And collecting and hoarding are not the same thing, Catherine Sprain. So I can see it in your eyes thinking about it. It's not exactly the same, but it just kind of defined that. Because it's like, we used to, on Microcasters, Lucas, Christian, and I would always talk about trying to complete things. Right, like how close are we getting to completing the 85 group, the 86 group, whatever. And renting, when you're cycling, it's like you never complete anything. You never finish, you never collect.
But
you
that
just
presumes
have.
collecting requires completion.
Right.
What about just collecting the specific things you like? Maybe you didn't like everybody in the 84 cast.
There's not. No, I agree. I just think that's part of why it's threatening. Just because, like, you know, it's in the word. It's collecting, is keeping, and curating would be the fancy term for having bins and having too many things.
Yeah, I do think renting is in stark opposition to bin life.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, it's the opposite of bin life.
The opposite of bin life. And bin life is threatening to me too. It's all threatening to me. Maybe I'm just afraid of my toys.
Yes, I find bin life very threatening because you are not displaying your toys. How do you even know what you have?
Inventory management system.
Caterpillars and raccoons could have eaten everything, as they do.
What? How would you let them in?
Well, the squirrels.
Just don't.
They invite themselves. It's a big party system.
I don't believe you.
All right. Well, on that note, do we have an anime academy this weekend, Anna, or is no?
Yeah, I never know what. I never know the episodes. But
Yeah, the 2 more episodes. They're in the Discord.
Okay.
Not going
Whatever
to
the new
TFcon, so we're just going to be doing our thing.
Like, I want to say 35, 36.
I think 35, 36 was last week. I think it's 37, 38.
Okay, somewhere in there.
We're getting close
30s.
to the end of Super God Master Force. Bad things are happening. Will the Cybertrons pull through?
The Earth just got a giant hole shot in its ozone, but it's cool. We only lost the ice caps. It's fine.
So what will you do when that show ends? Do you have a new one that you've picked out?
Yeah, we're going to go to your favorite IDW reboot universe. We're going to make everyone so happy by talking about that universe.
I love that. That is my favorite universe.
There you go.
You can have your opinion, and it can be wrong.
Christian, you love Beast Wars, and Catherine literally couldn't watch it. So you guys have opposite favorites.
Her opinion can be wrong.
Beast
there
Wars
too.
is good.
Just a stack of wrong
Like,
opinions.
are we saying the original cartoon?
Yeah. It was an animation thing for her.
Oh, okay. Well, I can kind of see that.
All right, that's fine.
So, anyway. All right. Well, thanks guys for joining me tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat. And we will see everybody next week.
I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. See you in the morning. Yeah.
Thank you.